It was Wednesday, July 15th of 2020 that my father, Joe McGarry, passed away just 2 weeks shy of his 94th birthday. Now, 2020 will go down in history for many things. If nothing else, it was a year of death and distance because of, well, you know, the thing. For me, there was a certain sense of relief in that Dad didn't succumb to the coronavirus. We tried to be diligent in maintaining our distance from him because, as my sister Darryl put it, we couldn't let Dad leave this world alone in a hospital gasping for air. It was mission accomplished because, as it turns out, it was just his time. Now, the pandemic did succeed, however, in leaving so many like my dad to pass with far too little remembrance. Now, back when Mom died, Dad was impressed enough with my eulogy for her that he charged me then and there with speaking on his behalf when his time came. And I didn't want to let him down, so here you go, Dad. This one's for you. Given the missed opportunity to eulogize Dad in the usual way, I thought I'd take a shot at making this Videulogy to trip down memory lane, mostly through his camera lens. And luckily for me, Dad seemed to always have his Kodak Brownie or Olympus camera hanging from his neck. At least until macular degeneration and his failing eyesight robbed him of the joy. The result of this passion was a huge photo collection which made seeing the world through Dad's eyes even possible. I'm also very fortunate that over the years my wife Janice, who shared a kinship for photography with Dad, managed to capture many cherished moments of his charmed life and served as another deep well of memories to support this effort. For that I am forever grateful. This also helps explain her favorite daughter-in-law status with Dad. My hope is that others may enjoy this montage of memories, not just of Dad, but of all those beloved family members and friends that inspired him to aim the lens at them, creating that forever connection to their moment in time. So, without further ado, it's time to take this journey through Dad's life. So follow me as I load up the carousel and fire up Dad's slide projector. Joseph Anthony McGarry was born on July 30th, 1926 in Roxbury, Massachusetts. He was the son of Irish immigrants, Anthony and Catherine, whose maiden name was Murphy. He was the middle child to older sister May and younger brother Bill, who tragically succumbed to a massive heart attack on July 25, 1976, at the way too young age of 46. The McGarry homestead, where Anthony was born and raised in Ireland, was known as The Bridge and was located in Glenamoy Village in County Mayo. He was the sixth of 11 children. Here's a fun fact. The McGarrys ran the village post office for years but were fired because they drank too much poachine, which is Irish whiskey's distant and more potent cousin. Anthony was 20 years old when he arrived at Ellis Island in November of 1910 and lived with his sister Penelope in the New York, New Jersey area until he enlisted in the U.S. Army at the onset of World War I. He transferred to Massachusetts in 1918, and on September 20th of that year, he was among 2,300 soldiers who became U.S. citizens at Fort Devens. This was the largest group ever naturalized at one time. He was honorably discharged a few months later in January of 1919. Catherine Murphy arrived from County Cork on May 5, 1910, at the age of 19. She arrived in Boston and stayed with her sister Margaret in Roxbury. She married Anthony, who was also living in Boston at the time, on November 12, 1922, and became a U.S. citizen in February of 1958. The family ultimately settled in Arlington, Massachusetts, which is where Dad was raised, made a living, and called home, until moving the family to Burlington in late 1975. He attended St. Agnes School before moving on to Arlington High School. Dad put off graduation, however, until after serving in the Coast Guard during the war. Sadly, a photo album from Dad's childhood fell victim to a flooded basement. Lucky for me, though, that Dad's passion for capturing life's fleeting moments on film seems to have found its origin while in the Coast Guard. I never talked to Dad much about his time in the Coast Guard beyond the occasional tales of rough seas and treacherous conditions while aboard icebreakers north of the Atlantic. One photo after another of his crewmates and their antics depict the camaraderie they shared, and I think it gives us a bit of a clue of the importance Dad placed on having others in his life. What's also maybe worth noting is that for Dad, photography was a non-digital hobby. I can only imagine how many pictures we'd have to sort through if we weren't limited to 24 on a roll of film. I didn't have to haul all that Kodachrome off to the nearest photomat booth. Here's Dad striking his best gangsta pose. Dad married the love of his life on June 3, 1951, at St. Agnes Church in Arlington. Now, I'm not saying that life before they met were the dark ages, but if there was ever a renaissance in Dad's life, it began when he met Jean Marilyn Faulkner. She was the brightest light in his life until she passed in May of 1999. I consider them the gold standard for married couples. Dad's smile seemed just a bit wider, and he always had that air of confidence when he had his arm candy by his side. Whether Joe and his sidekick Jean were at your get-together or hosting their own, you could always tell that being with others was important to him and when he was at his happiest. Through my childhood eyes, they were like royalty. Before Mom and Dad bought the two-family house at 132 Washington Street in June of 1955, the family had already grown by two. Steve in 1952 and Joseph Jr., maybe better known as Lucky, in 1954. Then Jack came along in 55, a few months after moving day. Then Daryl in 56, me, 58, Debbie in 59, and last but not least, Denise in 1965. There were lots of laughs and giggles when Dad was around too. Wasn't at all unusual to see him grab Mom by the hand and break into spontaneous dance right there in the middle of the kitchen. In Dad's world, the kitchen was a popular place to hang out and enjoy some great conversation and entertainment. Well, he and Mom seemed entertained anyway. Dad was a jack of many trades, but hairdresser wasn't one of them. He knew one style, whiffle. Joe, as he was known by most over the years, was no stranger to hard work, and 132 Washington Street just might have been his Sistine Chapel. He was always in the middle of at least one project, and no task was too big. I don't think it dawned on me at the time, but looking back now, I think the transformation was pretty remarkable. These pictures hardly do it justice. His hard work, however, never interfered with his social life. He was definitely not an all-work and no-play kind of guy. Just watching him over the years gave us the confidence to tackle our own daunting projects. But none of us could hold a candle to him. He did it all, from reshingling and painting the entire house to pouring concrete. A lot of concrete. As part of a school project, my daughter Marissa recorded an interview with Bubba, so dubbed by her 2-year-old self. This is where Dad revealed that he even tried out for the Red Sox back in the 1940s. That was news to me. There was no shame in rejection for Dad, though, as the team turned away Jackie Robinson as well, showing their declining eye for talent since signing Ted Williams. Dad also revealed his entrepreneurial chops to Marissa as well. As a teenager, he ran a crew of 4 or 5 friends hawking newspapers to churchgoers as they left Mass, at one point making more money than his father. He talked about how much sales picked up after the Pearl Harbor attack. After his Coast Guard service, Dad worked 8 or 9 years for Sears Roebuck, then ran his own gas station for a bit in 1954, before moving on to a 35-year career driving trucks for Atlantic Roofing in Arlington. He always had a story or two to share from the road, like the moose encounter that left him stranded on the roadside, not the moose. He told me of the time he had to maneuver his truck past the Harry Chapin accident scene. Despite his failed Red Sox tryout, Dad still managed to make his mark at Fenway Park when he delivered the new panels for the Green Monster renovation in 1976. However, he was unsuccessful in convincing famed Red Sox groundskeeper Joe Mooney to allow his truck to even cast a shadow on their precious outfield grass so he could unload closer to left field. I have to admit, I may have preferred Dad's post-trip stories and maybe even some of his not-so-funny jokes over the endless stream of scenes from the road. First sign of double yellow lines or Millinocket, Maine triggered the mad dash for the one bathroom in the house. Man, what I wouldn't give for one more family session in front of that slide projector. Family vacations were always treasured. Some of our fondest memories as kids took place a mere 20 miles away at a rented cottage in Chelmsford, on Baptist Pond, I believe. At least that's what it was called in the 60s. These days it goes by Hart Pond. As a kid, it seemed so far away. We were headed to the Catskills as far as I was concerned. My childlike excitement was mixed with feelings of when are we gonna be there? At least until the agony was gone the second we exited the country squire. Christmas was always magical in the McGarry house. Mom loved the holiday season and Dad loved that she loved it. And they both seemed to live vicariously through the joy that it brought their 7 kids. Dad never missed the traditional family Christmas Eve celebration, including his last, the December 2019 edition. He will be missed just as Mom has been, but I like to imagine they'll be looking down upon a whole new generation of great-grandkids rushing the tree on Christmas morning. Easter was another favorite holiday. Mom loved to dress us up and literally parade us around to visit the cousins, and Dad would do his aim and shoot thing. I'm not sure if Dad just gave up trying to get us to line up and smile on cue, or if, like me, he just liked the unposed shots better. And it wasn't just his own kids that Dad kept entertained, either. All kids adored him. He always had a way to make every one of his sons, daughters, grandkids, nieces, and nephews feel special, each being dubbed his favorite. Maybe you had your own nickname, or you'd hang out and beg him to quiz you on state and geographical capitals. He just loved the interaction, and so did the kids. I think the happiest I've ever seen Dad was when he, Mom, Janice, and I found our way to Glenamoy in County Mayo when we visited Ireland and London in the fall of 1985. Now, Dad knew very little about his father's connection across the pond, so he arrived with little more than the village name of Glenamoy and a few names and stories. We stopped at the first sign of civilization, Healy's Pub, where we went in looking for help in locating the local post office and cemetery. We explained to the bartender that we were hoping to find a headstone or two etched with the names in Dad's notes. He offered up in his fine Irish brogue that if anybody would know those names, it was Bridget Healy. And as he said this, he's pointing out the front window to the lovely home not even 100 steps across the road. Bridget greeted us at the door, and after listening to Dad's spiel, she got this twinkle in her eye and invited us in for tea and scones, and then proceeded to rock Dad's world. It turns out Bridget's mother-in-law was none other than Dad's Aunt Bridget, who to that point was unknown to him. Well, let me tell you, Bridget Healy plugged Dad into the matrix and dished out all the details on our grandfather Anthony and his older sister Bridget. Oh, and their 9 other siblings. She even jumped in the car with us to visit other cousins in the area. What a treasure she was in Dad's life. Dad was already on cloud 9 by the time we arrived in County Cork to visit Nana's birthplace. We were warmly greeted by his cousin Cornelius Savage, his wife Peggy, and their children Anna Marie, Padraig, and Finola. They showed us his mom's childhood home along the southern coast, and we were wowed by the spectacular views. I owe an enormous debt of gratitude to my wife Janice for planning this trip and including Mom and Dad. At the time, neither of us realized the impact this journey would have on Dad. I feel blessed to have been witness to this life-changing event and how elated both he and Mom were. I will forever cherish the video and photos from this trip and the lasting connection we've had to our Irish family. There is so much more to Dad's time on this planet, but as I said at the start, this was just a glimpse. Joseph Anthony McGarry was interred at the New Hampshire State Veterans Cemetery on July 23rd in 2020, taking his eternal place next to his beloved wife Jean. Though he is sorely missed by so many, his passing is by no means tragic given the treasure trove of memories that he leaves us with. Even if your connection with Dad was brief, there's a pretty good chance you were immortalized right there on his Frigidaire. So take comfort in knowing that he appreciated having you in his life more than you probably realized. Oh wait, he's still there? You know, I'd be remiss if I didn't post some pictures from Dad's 90th birthday party, which was another and more recent happy time in his life. Let me just swap the carousel and take a few minutes more before I fade to black, and I'll let these pictures speak for themselves.